Have no fear. The fine rich auntie is here. Line the kids up. I'm ready to give everybody a dollar.
On the night of January 2023, Princess Aura Tolliver, 31, was enjoying the end of a concert by the rapper JackBoy. She was in a van, heading home, when everything changed in an instant. The van, carrying Aura, was suddenly targeted by a group of shooters from the Untold Forever gang. The shooters believed that JackBoy, the rapper, was inside the van. This belief was based on the fact that JackBoy had been at the concert earlier in the evening. The gang had been following JackBoy's every move because of his ongoing public feud with rapper Kodak Black. This feud had made JackBoy a target for revenge. However, there was a critical mistake that night. JackBoy was not in the van. The person sitting in the van was Princess Aura, an innocent woman with no connection to the drama between the rappers. The Untold Forever gang, acting on a mix of anger and revenge, saw the van leave the concert and immediately assumed it was JackBoy inside. Without hesitation, they opened fire on the vehicle, shooting multiple rounds into it. The gang members didn't stop to check who was actually in the van. They acted on the assumption that they were targeting their enemy. The gunfire struck Princess Aura, hitting her in the head. She was left in the vehicle, severely injured. The shooters, realizing too late that they had targeted the wrong person, quickly fled the scene.
Princess Aura Tolliver was an innocent victim killed when investigators say members of a Sanford gang called Untold Forever, or OTF, opened fire on the van she was riding in with friends in January last year.
Somebody puts it out on the internet. I see my daughter dead on a Sprinter van on the internet. That's just hard. It was just man.
Tolliver's father, Edward's been waiting for justice, and yesterday, the Seminole County Sheriff announced 13 people are now in jail charged with Princess's murder and racketeering.
As the van sped off after the attack, Princess Aura's life was hanging by a thread. The van made its way to a nearby hospital, where Aura was rushed in critical condition. By the time the emergency responders arrived, it was too late. The mistake made by the gang had ended her life. The authorities soon investigated the incident. They discovered that the shooting had been a case of mistaken identity. The shooters believed they were attacking JackBoy, but it was an innocent woman, Princess Aura, who had tragically lost her life because of their mistake. The investigation quickly led to the arrest of 13 gang members involved in the shooting. They were charged with murder and other crimes related to the attack. Yet, despite the arrests, the fact remained that Princess Aura was gone, her life taken in a senseless act of violence based on a misunderstanding. This tragic event highlighted how one moment of confusion and anger could spiral into irreversible consequences. What happened that night was a series of events that could have been avoided if the gang members had taken a moment to confirm who was really in the van. Instead, they acted on assumptions, and it cost an innocent woman her life. This shooting was a clear example of how violence can arise from misunderstandings and misplaced assumptions, and it served as a chilling reminder of how dangerous it can be when people act without fully understanding the situation. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Princess Aura Tolliver was a 31-year-old woman who was full of life. She was independent, strong, and worked hard every day to take care of herself and the people around her. Everyone who knew her said she was kind and always ready to help others. Princess Aura had a job where she helped people, and this made her feel proud because she knew she was making a positive difference in her community. She was loved by her family and friends, who always appreciated her caring heart. Aura wasn't just hardworking. She also enjoyed spending time with her friends and family. She had many friends, and they all admired how friendly and fun she was to be around. Princess Aura loved going to different events like concerts, where she could enjoy the music and relax with her friends. These concerts were her way of unwinding after a busy day or week of work. At concerts, She would dance, sing along with the crowd, and enjoy herself just like any other person who loves music. Her love for dancing made her stand out at these events, as she always had a big smile and energy that everyone noticed. One of her most favorite things to do was meet new people, whether it was at a concert or just out and about. Princess Aura was always open to making new friends. Her family said she always thought about others first and put their needs ahead of her own. This made her even more special to the people who knew her. To them, she was not just a friend or family member, but a caring soul who made the world a better place. But in January 2023, Princess Aura's life was tragically cut short. On that night, she had gone to a concert, just like many other times. It was a chance for her to enjoy the music, have fun with her friends, and forget about her busy life for a while. She didn't know that this concert would be different from the others. She didn't know it would be her last night. She was simply there to enjoy the music, laugh, and dance with her friends like she always did. What she didn't know was that while she was at the concert, something dangerous was happening nearby. The shooting that would change everything for Princess Aura was tied to a mix-up, one that would lead to a deadly mistake. Princess Aura had no idea that she was about to be a victim of a dangerous situation. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, all because someone made a mistake. She was in a van, leaving the concert, when members of the gang mistook her for someone else. The gang had been looking for a famous rapper named JackBoy, who was involved in a feud with another rapper named Kodak Black. The gang members believed JackBoy was in the van, and they wanted to hurt him because of the fight between the two rappers. But here's where everything went wrong. Princess Aura was not JackBoy. She was just a woman who loved music and wanted to enjoy her night. The gang members didn't know who she was. They didn't know she was completely innocent. All they saw was a van, and they believed it was JackBoy's. Without knowing it, they fired shots, and one of those shots hit Princess Aura in the head. It was a tragic, senseless mistake. Princess Aura had nothing to do with the feud between the rappers, but she became a victim because of it. The night turned into something terrifying when a group of gang members from the On Top Forever gang mistakenly opened fire on her van. The gang members were looking for someone else, the famous rapper JackBoy. JackBoy had been in a public fight with another rapper named Kodak Black. The two rappers were not friends, and their disagreement had made headlines. JackBoy's name was well known, and so was his feud with Kodak Black. The On Top Forever gang wanted to take revenge on JackBoy for things he had said about Kodak Black. They thought JackBoy was inside the van with Princess Aura and her friends. The gang members didn't know who Princess Aura was. They only saw a van that looked like one JackBoy might be in. Because of the feud between the rappers, they made a mistake. They believed they were going after JackBoy, but in reality, they were targeting the wrong person. As the gang members got closer to the van, they quickly decided to attack. They pulled out guns and fired at the van. The shooters thought they were going after a famous rapper. They didn't know that Princess Aura was just a regular woman, with no part in the fight between JackBoy and Kodak Black. Princess Aura had no chance. The van was hit by the gunshots and chaos erupted. Princess Aura was shot in the head, and her life was taken away in an instant. Her friends in the van were scared and confused, not understanding why this was happening. They didn't know who was shooting or why it was happening. All they knew was that someone had opened fire, and their lives would never be the same. The shooters didn't realize what they had done. They didn't know that Princess Aura had no connection to the famous rappers or their feud. They didn't know she was simply a woman enjoying a night out. The shooting was a huge mistake. The gang members believed they were getting revenge on JackBoy, but instead, they took the life of an innocent person. The shooting left the scene in complete chaos. The van was filled with blood, and everyone around was frightened. Princess Aura's friends tried to help her, but it was too late. She had been shot in the head and couldn't survive the attack. The shooting didn't just harm Princess Aura. It also hurt the people who were close to her. They would never forget that night. What do you think could have happened if the gang members knew who Princess Aura was? Do you think they would have made the same mistake? How do you think Princess Aura's family and friends felt when they lost her? Why is it important to be kind to others, like Princess Aura was? How can we all be more like her? The police didn't waste any time in starting the investigation. They started looking at the van where Princess Aura was shot and trying to figure out why the shooters had targeted it. They quickly discovered that the gang members who shot at her van had made a big mistake. The gang thought they were shooting at a famous rapper named JackBoy. JackBoy had been involved in a public fight with another rapper, Kodak Black. The gang members were angry because of this feud, and they thought JackBoy was in the van. They wanted to take revenge on him, but they didn't know that Princess Aura was the one inside. Princess Aura had nothing to do with the fight between JackBoy and Kodak Black. She wasn't involved in the feud at all. The gang members didn't know who she was, but they still opened fire, thinking they were targeting JackBoy. It was all a big misunderstanding, and because of it, Princess Aura lost her life. When the police investigated, they started to ask important questions. They wondered if there was anything that could have been done to stop the shooting from happening. What could have saved Princess Aura's life? One important question was whether the van should have taken a different route. The van was driving down the street when the gang members started shooting. If the van had been on another street or in a different place, it might have been safer. Sometimes, just a small change in direction can make a big difference. But unfortunately, the van was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Another thing that could have made a difference was if someone inside the van had made a phone call. If they had called the police or even told the driver to stop the van, maybe they could have avoided the gang. But no one knew the danger they were in. If someone had made that call, things could have been different. However, there was no way to know that the gang was out there waiting for them. If the shooters had only known who was inside the van, would they have still shot at them? The police realized that the gang members didn't know Princess Aura. They didn't know she wasn't involved in the fight with JackBoy. If the gang had known who she was, they might not have shot at the van at all. It shows how important it is to know the facts before making a decision. If the gang had known the truth, Princess Aura might have been safe. This investigation had an important twist. It wasn't just about finding out who was responsible for the shooting. It was also about understanding how small decisions could have made a big difference in the outcome. The gang members were angry and made a decision to shoot, but they didn't know the truth. If they had known who was in the van, things could have turned out differently. The investigation showed that one small mistake can lead to big consequences. If the van had been in a different place, or if someone had made a phone call, the shooting might not have happened. The twist in the story is that sometimes even the smallest choices can change everything. The police discovered that the gang's mistake led to a tragedy that could have been avoided if things had been different. In the end, the police found out that Princess Aura was an innocent woman caught in the middle of a feud she had nothing to do with. The gang had made a huge mistake by shooting at her, thinking she was someone else. But it also showed that small changes in how things were done might have saved her life. The investigation helped the police understand what went wrong and what could have been done to prevent the shooting. It was a mistake and a tragedy, but it taught everyone that decisions, big or small, can have huge consequences. This story reminds us all to think carefully about the choices we make, because sometimes those choices can change everything. Her family and friends were deeply shocked by what had happened. They couldn't believe that an innocent woman, who was just attending a concert and minding her own business, could be caught up in such a terrible event. Princess Aura was loved by many people. She was known for being kind and always ready to help others. Her death left a big hole in the hearts of everyone who knew her. The police quickly began their investigation to find out who was responsible for the shooting. They discovered that the people who shot the van had mistaken Princess Aura for a famous rapper named JackBoy. They thought JackBoy was inside the van because of his feud with another rapper named Kodak Black. The gang members have been looking to harm JackBoy because of this feud, but sadly, they didn't know that it was Princess Aura in the van, not JackBoy. 13 gang members were arrested after the police worked hard to gather clues and figure out who had been involved in the shooting. The police gathered evidence, interviewed witnesses, and pieced together the events that led up to the attack. They realized that it was all a big misunderstanding. The gang members had no idea who Princess Aura really was, and they had attacked her because they thought she was someone else. The investigation showed that the shooting was not meant for Princess Aura, but it still had deadly consequences for her and her family. The shooting was a huge shock to everyone. When people first heard about it, They couldn't understand how something like this could happen. Princess Aura was just an ordinary woman who was out enjoying a concert. She wasn't involved in any gang violence or any dangerous feuds between famous people. The community was upset because they knew that an innocent life had been taken away by a mistake. Many people in the community felt angry, sad, and confused. How could this happen? How could someone who wasn't even part of the feud between the rappers get caught up in it? People were frustrated because it seemed so unfair. Princess Aura had done nothing wrong, yet she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The shooting also made people think about gang violence. They started talking more about how dangerous it is when people use violence to solve problems, especially when it involves innocent people. This was a moment for everyone to think about how serious gang violence can be and how it can hurt people who aren't even involved. Another big topic that came up after the shooting was mistaken identity. The gang members thought they were targeting JackBoy, but they had made a mistake. This mistake led to someone losing their life. People talked about how important it is to be sure about things before making big decisions, especially when those decisions can hurt or even kill someone. It made everyone realize how easily things can go wrong when people act without thinking. The shooting also brought attention to the impact of feuds between famous people. JackBoy and Kodak Black had been involved in a public fight for some time, and the gang members wanted to get revenge on JackBoy because of this. But in the end, the feud didn't just hurt the rappers, it hurt innocent people too. This made people think about how feuds between famous people can have far-reaching consequences for everyone involved, not just the celebrities themselves. As the investigation continued, many people began asking questions. How could something like this happen? Why did the gang members attack the wrong person? Was there anything that could have been done to stop it? These questions made the community realize how fragile life can be and how one mistake can change everything in an instant. The shooting also made people think about the value of life. Everyone realized that people's lives are precious and no one should lose their life over a mistake, especially not an innocent person like Princess Aura. It was a wake-up call for community to think about how we treat each other and how important it is to be careful with our actions. The tragic death of Princess Aura Tolliver was a wake-up call for many. It showed how easily something can go wrong when violence and hatred are involved. It also highlighted the importance of thinking before acting and how important it is to be careful with our decisions. While the investigation brought some answers, the loss of Princess Aura's life can never be replaced. The community learned a lot from this tragedy, and they will always remember Princess Aura as a kind and innocent woman who was taken from them far too soon. Mistaken identity happens when someone is confused with another person. It's a situation where you might be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and people think you are someone else. In Princess Aura's case, the gang members thought she was a famous rapper, and because of that mistake, she lost her life. Have you ever been mistaken for someone else? Maybe someone thought you were a friend or a family member because you looked similar. Imagine if you were in Princess Aura's place. What would you do if someone made a mistake and thought you were someone else? It can be scary to think about. Mistaken identity can happen to anyone, and sometimes it leads to big problems, just like it did for Princess Aura. Now, let's think about whether the shooting could have been avoided. If the gang members had known that Princess Aura was not JackBoy, would they still have attacked the van? It's a tough question to answer. If they had just checked more carefully, or if they had known who was really inside the van, maybe they would have made a different choice. If they had realized their mistake sooner, Princess Aura could still be alive today. In this case, a lot of things went wrong, and the shooting didn't have to happen. If the people involved had taken a moment to think carefully about what they were doing, things might have turned out differently. Sometimes, it only takes a small change in the way people act or think to stop something bad from happening. What do you think? Could the shooting have been avoided if the gang members had known the truth? How could they have acted differently? Think about how important it is to know what's really going on before jumping to conclusions or making a decision that could hurt someone. The story of Princess Aura Tolliver teaches us an important lesson. It shows how important it is to stop and think before we act. When we are angry or upset, it can be easy to make a quick decision without thinking. But sometimes those quick decisions can lead to mistakes that hurt others, like what happened with the gang members. Violence should never be the answer to any problem. It's better to stop and think about the consequences of our actions before we do something that could hurt someone. What can we learn from this tragedy? First, we can learn that it's important to always know who we are dealing with before making any decisions. If the gang members had known the truth, they might not have attacked the van at all. Second, we can learn that violence never solves anything. Even though JackBoy was in a fight with Kodak Black, the gang members didn't have a right to hurt anyone over a disagreement. There are always better ways to solve problems without using violence. Finally, we can learn that we should always be kind and caring towards others. Princess Aura was an innocent person who just wanted to enjoy a concert. She didn't deserve to be caught up in someone else's fight. Every time we make a decision, we should ask ourselves if it is the right thing to do. Is it kind? Is it fair? These questions can help us make better choices and avoid hurting others. Now that you know the story, let's think about it together. Here are a few questions for you to reflect on. What do you think about mistaken identity? Can you imagine being in a situation where someone mistakes you for someone else? What would you do if that happened to you? Have you ever been confused for someone else before? Could the shooting have been avoided? If the shooters knew who was inside the van, do you think they would have still attacked? What changes in the story could have saved Princess Aura's life? What can we learn from this tragedy? This tragedy teaches us how important it is to think before we act. Violence should never be the answer. How can we stop things like this from happening again? What can we do to make sure we don't hurt people by mistake? Think about these questions and talk with your family or friends. It's important to understand how our actions can affect others and how we can make the world a better place by making the right choices. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.